The towel we have on the radio here is pretty top-notch all week long, and I think you can go to the BuyAToyota.com audio vault and hear that. And, when we get Pittsburgh week going, I go to the A-team here, and I'm bringing out a whole bunch of great guests this week. And this guy I reached to over the weekend, it was actually in Seattle for the Eagles and Seahawks game. He hails from Chicago, Illinois. He is formerly doing the shutdown corner at Yahoo, now at Pro Football Weekly, and you can still find him anytime, anywhere at Eric_Edholm, wiping the sleep out from his eyes from a long weekend of football. And, dude, we're getting ready for Pittsburgh week here. And, I get the popcorn out on Monday night, and I got Susie, and I'm watching a game, and Gruden's got grinders and all that. Then Ryan Shazier happens, and bro, you've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this a long time. Steeler, Raven, Cowboy, Redskin, whatever it is, they're all human beings, and that was as ugly an episode as I can remember sitting and watching a game with my wife.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's funny because I was a little bit behind everybody. I had put the game on DVR and was taking care of some stuff upstairs.
Yeah, that's a mistake, right? I mean, you should never do that.
Oh, exactly, right.
Sports are not meant for the DVR. They're just not. Not in the era of Twitter, man,
I was, and so I kind of had seen one or two things on Twitter, but then I was watching, and then, it's funny because the hit seemed, obviously anytime your helmet hits another player, you're going to be a little bit concerned, but, it didn't seem abnormally strange, but then just the way he grabbed his back and the way he flipped over and the way his legs went numb, and you went, oh, that's not normal. We see hits all the time that are vicious. We see neck snapback. We see all kinds of crazy things, but that just didn't feel like your garden variety big hit. So then, Kevin Colbert, the GM, is on the sideline. Just a lot of unusual activity, real radio sounds from the Steelers. So everybody feared the worst. Now, it sounds like he may have avoided worst-case scenario. We still are gathering this information, of course, but just a frightening thing. And, late in the game, Juju Smith-Schuster has that big hit in the block, and there was the Gronk thing over the weekend. And, these guys can turn the page. It's amazing, but it's also scary sometimes to think about, having witnessed that, and then the big hits kind of keep coming.
Well, we could talk about heads-up football. We could talk about better equipment. Lord knows you and I will be in Minnesota, and somebody will be bringing a helmet by on Radio Row telling me that this is a concussion-proof something. I don't know what to believe or where to go, and concussion and CTE. But, after all of that, and look, we can get into Goodell versus Jerry Jones and Ezekiel Elliott and Jimmy Smith, blowing an Achilles and then missing a piss test on Monday morning. So it's kind of the week of Pittsburgh week. We get back into the playoff one. But the Gronkowski hit disturbs me as much as anything because the Andre Garrod, Hainsworth stuff, when guys are out there with an intent to injure each other because they have a bad attitude, I think that, that's where the commissioner needs to say, you don't get a helmet and pads in this league until you respect the other guys in this league because it's too easy to get hurt just playing football, as we learned, and as we always learn. I mean, football's rough, even when it's being played clean, fair, between the whistles, above the knees, all those things we hear, that's all great, but when you're pile driving a guy, dude, you don't deserve to wear the shield, in my opinion, when you're doing what Gronkowski did after the whistle.
Yeah, and just to use an example people may or may not remember, in Week 4, the Chicago Bears were up in Green Bay at Lambeau. Ugly game, Thursday night game. It was rainy. Packers were blowing them out. Late in the game, Danny Trevathan, linebacker for the Bears, hit Devontae Adams on a hit that I honestly I never have reacted to a hit like that in a press box before. I mean, I went, oh, God. Like, it was one of those. But it was within the flow of the play. Was it a little late? Yes. Was it a quote-unquote cheap shot? Yes.
By the way, the Kiko Alonso hit on our quarterback a couple of weeks ago was right there for me.
Too. And it's within the flow of a play to where you think, is it dirty? Yeah. Can you understand a guy making a play? Yes, you can, I think. Most reasonable-minded people. What we saw with Gronk, like you said, was not football. That was beyond the play. That was after the play. That was a guy who let his frustrations boil over, and that should be exactly what the league is trying to curb. Trevathan got 2 games. It was reduced to 1, but the initial suspension was 2. Gronk's initial suspension was 1. To me, that sends a bit of a mixed message. And even if Gronk stays at 1 and ends up being the same as Trevathan or Alonso or whoever else, it feels a little bit wrong. And the longer I thought about the Gronk hit, the more I thought, there's no place for that at all.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how I feel about it. No matter who the player is, no matter what the circumstance is, it's one thing, to your point with Kiko Alonso, making a football play. Was it late? Yeah. Was it high? Yeah. Was it avoidable? Perhaps. Surely. But, all of that after the game, after the play, after the whistle, out of bounds. And look, there's bad blood all the way around, but the Cincinnati-Pittsburgh thing's as ugly as it gets, right? I mean, we're going to talk Pittsburgh-Baltimore here in a minute, and, the bloodbath and the war and all those terms we're not supposed to use around here, but Cincinnati-Pittsburgh's personal.
Yeah, no doubt it is. And it's to the point where I almost can't remember a game between those two where something didn't happen. And I realized last night Shazier, it's Monday night, Shazier was kind of the unfortunate thing, and that has nothing to do with any of that. Everybody knows that. But the after the extracurricular stuff, right? Every single game, like the Juju block at the end of the game, every single matchup between those two teams seems to have one of those. Now, maybe Ravens Steelers almost touched that level. Now, obviously, the rivalry was better because we saw, both teams winning games and going back and forth. But just kind of the weirdness and ugliness that has existed in this Bengals-Steelers thing has been, I don't remember where it started, but I know where it crested in that crazy playoff game, and it's sort of pervaded ever since.
Eric Edholm is our guest. He is at Pro Football Weekly. You can follow his journey at Eric_Edholm. That's EDHOLM. This portion of our WNST programming brought to you by Freedmont Mortgage. Don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. You need Carl Delmont and our friends at Freedmont Mortgage. Buying, selling, refinancing, or just in the market to learn whether you can save some money or not, Freedmont.com answers those questions for you. Also, by our friends at Deli Ish on Wise Avenue in Dundalk, the New York-style deli with Rubens, corned beef, the lean, good stuff, and legit sandwiches like that curly fryer. DeliBaltimore.com finds them. You can cater in. You can pick up a tray. They will send over a tray, whatever you need to do. Deli-ish on Wise Avenue for the holidays in Dundalk, and DeliBaltimore.com. Eric, it's Pittsburgh week here. I don't need to tell you, there's not much at stake here other than, hey, the Ravens need to win some games still to get into the playoffs. This isn't one of those ones where if you got the purple goggles on, you're circling as a W at the Confluence on Sunday night. Certainly the Ravens will be without Jimmy Smith. Clearly the Steelers will be without Ryan Shazier. And Antonio Brown's running around on 9 toes at this point. Look, for where the Ravens are, even without Smith and Marlon Humphrey, here in Baltimore, the smart football fans, the guys like me that know what kind of coach Harbaugh is, that see how Suggs is playing, that see the determination of Weddle, to see the offense getting at least a little bit better here against the Lions and knowing Flacco's pedigree, I would not like seeing them if I am in Tennessee or if I'm in Jacksonville or if, by God, they win this week and somehow they wind up being the 5 seed and traveling off to Kansas City, L.A., or Oakland. I don't think you want to see the Ravens in January after beating up on Deshaun Kaiser and Jacoby Brissett and whoever Marvin's throwing out there the last week of the season. I mean, I think the Ravens are, moving into a dangerous team in January because of the way they play defense.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, you could probably look back to, certainly the Dolphins game, but even the game, I think it was the game before that, close loss at the Vikings. Obviously it didn't go the way they hoped offensively, but, just ever since that point, they've just incrementally gotten better. And despite all the attrition, all the, the roster craziness they've endured this season, it just felt like anyone who was, and I understood why people were bringing up Harbaugh's name. Well, hasn't made the playoffs that much recently, but come on. I mean, he's probably, third or fourth on my list of Coach of the Year candidates at this point, and maybe even higher than that. I don't know. I'd have to think about it a little harder. But
I think they're going to get to 10 wins, and if you would have told me when Flacco didn't walk on the field, you would have told me on Labor Day they're going to finish with 10. It ain't going to be pretty. They're going to get their ass kicked in London. The fans are all going to be not using their tickets and coming to the games. Flacco's going to get hit in the head by Kiko Alonso and get knocked out cold and bloody. That they're going to be 10-6. I mean, this might be the best job Ozzie Newsome's ever done to get this team to 10-6. Same thing with Harbaugh.
Yeah. With a loss to the Bear. I mean, all these different things that have happened this year, and to get to this point, I mean, it really is to me remarkable. And nationally, it's not getting that much attention because there isn't the sexiness about the Ravens, right? They don't have the star wide receivers. They don't have the the quarterback that everybody views as being one of those top 10 guys. And defense is good, sure, but yeah, I mean, it's just been remarkable. Like you said, if if they go to, let's say, LA in the opening round of the playoffs, that's I don't know. I don't know if the Ravens are favored, but they're certainly a team that you'd have to think has a great chance to win that game. Or at Oakland, I think Kansas City's a mess right now. I can't even consider them a playoff team. So, yeah, you start working out these combinations, and you think about what a rematch with the Jaguars would look like, or a rematch with the Titans, and you say, I think they'd have a much better shot. They could beat a team that they lost 40-0 to. They could beat a team that they lost by a field goal to easily. So, do I think they're a great football team? No, I do not. But there's a quality about them that, like you said, you don't want to play them round one when you're the unproven playoff team.
He is Eric Edholm. You can follow him at Pro Football Weekly. Let's talk about the West, because you're like, Kansas City's got problems. Chargers, what if they have to go there? Oakland 6-6. I mean, I remember maybe having you on first, second week of the year, and this was considered the elite division in football.
It sure was. It sure was. And the Chargers were considered trash until about week 5, when they barely beat the Giants. Remember, those were 2 0-4 teams facing off in New York, and the Chargers had scored 10 points in the last 5 minutes just to beat them. So, I mean, it's crazy we've gotten here. I picked the Chargers, I think. I'd have to go back and look. I think I picked the Chargers to win the division. It wasn't looking real good early. Obviously, the Chiefs were the toast of the town, and everybody was saying Alex Smith MVP and this and that, and the defense is making plays. Well, it's like everything's been flipped on its head, and they can't get that 60 minutes of good football anymore. I mean, all the talk about benching Smith the last couple weeks should be put on hold after his brilliant. I mean, he was brilliant on Sunday. He was. He did everything he could. But you got Marcus Peters throwing the official flag in the stands. You got Darrelle Revis, former captain. They're trying to troll the Jets by rolling him out there for the coin flip. He's benched by halftime. He looked like an old man running around out there. So nothing is working in harmony here. The defense has a miserable day. Smith plays well. They lose. Smith struggles. The defense does its job. They lose. It's been the pattern the last 6-7 weeks now, and so I can't figure them out. The Chargers, I mean, they're not a team that you like giving credit to, because as soon as you do, they lose. They blow it. But
they're almost a nomadic team at this point, right? Like,
yeah.
it's of all the bizarre, goofy stuff you could talk about that Jerry Jones and Roger Goodell have done to the detriment of the league, to the detriment of the Shield themselves. I mean, I would start with Thursday Night Football as a concept, right? I mean, I think that, but moving these football teams around for no one and no good reason other than money, and that's not a good reason, but the Chargers thing's just bizarre to me.
It is. They don't have a connection to that city. Oh, they played there in 1960. Great. Yeah. Does anybody remember that? Does anybody have a connection to that? No. They're playing in a little soccer stadium. I've heard it's a gorgeous little jewel box, right? Okay, that's great. But if they go to the playoffs, it's a fun story. It really is. I think it would be fantastic. It's great for Philip Rivers and all that, but I don't think it generates a whole lot more buzz. Would it be cool to have 2 playoff games in LA in a weekend? Yes, I'd make the trip. I'd love to do it, but you're right. I do think that this thing has hurt the league, and that in 5 years we're going to be, at a point where we're sort of wondering about the state of that franchise. They never should have moved out of San Diego. We all agree on that. I think it's sad that the stadium deal was what drove these, team and city apart.
By the way, I get the Raiders thing to Vegas. I mean, I'll check off on that. It's a money grab. Vegas is rolling over. They rolled Sheldon Adelson, which ain't never been done in the history of the universe. I'm all good, but, they couldn't figure out Santa Clara. They couldn't figure out how to build one stadium in the Bay Area because the old owner was a goof, and let him run to Vegas like I'm fine with that. The Chargers thing's always going to rub me wrong on behalf of my family in San Diego, and as a kid that lost a football team here, dude, I want to get off the field for a minute, and I will get to you about Philadelphia and Seattle and all that your eyes saw over the weekend as well, but we got a real problem in Baltimore with empty seats. I know the league has a lot of problems, clearly, when Jerry Jones is going to sue everybody in the league. Clearly it's not peacetime there. Some thoughts for you on the stability of the league right now. I don't know that we've ever thought about having this conversation. You and I have been at this for a couple decades each. I don't know that we've ever had a conversation ever, but it's going to dominate my Super Bowl week in Minnesota with everyone as to, hey, where's this thing going? Because we never had any answer to that other than, up. They're going to make more money, They're going to get bigger and better. I don't know, man. The balloon may have gotten as big as it was going to get.
It's possible, yeah, and you know, I think you have a good feel for this, and I know you know the politics behind the league, and having gone through the whole, you know, Ravens getting the team thing, and I think you have a good understanding of it, because I sit back and ask those same questions, and it's a topic. You know, people love reading the headlines, Goodell, Jerry Jones feuding, and all that, but I don't know if people are sitting back and looking at that big picture as much as they should. And you're right. I think that is going to be a big topic Super Bowl week. And I think it is an interesting thing that, do people have other things they do in their lives? Yes. Is football still popular? Yes. Then you ask, how long is this thing going to last for? And how long is it going to remain not only king of American sports, but how long is it going to be as big as this? And at what point does it start to hurt the league, where those LA Chargers and other teams like that start, you know, dying on the vine a little bit? So, yeah, I agree.
I'm worried about kids not playing. You know, I mean, you got kids. I mean, you're going to let your kid play football? I don't know. I mean, probably after Ryan Shazier last night, you'd have a hard time talking your wife into that.
I would too, right? Like you said, for every fancy helmet they roll out during Super Bowl week, I mean, I still see things that it doesn't matter if they're wearing body armor out there; they could still be hurt, you know, potential for injury. So all that is going to be up for grabs this off season. I think it's all going to be a talking point. And I don't know. I mean, I guess it's something that the bigger picture. They still have rosy appearances in the league where they say, okay, we can go to London, we can do this, we can expand in other ways, but you know, oversaturation becomes an issue at one point too. So there's so many angles to this thing, and like you said, the next generation of football players, along with football fans, is the biggest issue.
He is Eric_Edholm out of Pro Football Weekly, and doing a cool story on bad beats that we're going to get to in a minute. This portion of our WNST programming brought to you by our friends at Compass Point Golf Course in Pasadena. It is the best place to play this fall and winter, close to home, probably 15, 20 minutes away from wherever you are down there in Pasadena. CompassPointGolf.com. And don't forget, Robert Kennedy's going to be joining us on a weekly basis talking some local college hoops around here as well. Also brought to you by King Discount Liquors, lottery, beer, booze, and the best prices in Baltimore. Get over to Rosedale and give the King a ring. Tell him I need some Malbec over there for my holiday ring-a-ding that I'm doing around here on Christmas Eve as well. King Discount Liquors. Give the King a ring. Eric, you're out in the West Coast doing the thing out in Seattle the other night and watching Russell Wilson run around with the previous Super Bowl champion anointed Philadelphia Eagles, who took it on the chin, and Schwartzy and those guys, and now they stay out on the West Coast, take on the Rams this week. Tough couple of weeks for the Eagles, and a real judgment period for them on the road as to where they are, because they lose another one here, they might wind up playing week 2 instead of week 3, and going from a one-loss team into that, hey, we don't get a bye kind of, thoughts about things as well. That's all at stake here, but the NFC, as much as we talked about the AFC, the NFC is really, really interesting with some pretty good teams.
Yeah, it is, and you're right. I mean, 2 weeks ago, everybody kind of said, oh, the Eagles are going to roll this number 1 seed, as you said, and then, oh, yeah, the Saints are still white hot. Oh, yeah, the Vikings have ripped off, 8 wins in a row all of a sudden. So, a lot of teams nipping at their heels, which may end up being a good thing. I mean, that'll keep them, keep the Eagles realizing, hey, we're a young team. We've got to win every game. We're going to face Zeke in a couple weeks. We've got the Rams this week. There's a lot going on. Their schedule gets a lot tougher because, look, they haven't played a gauntlet so far. I mean, they haven't run through the toughest teams in the NFL, per se. And then we look at the Chiefs' loss as maybe a little bit worse. Now that team's turned into a bit of a pumpkin. So, yeah, I mean, I think it was interesting being in their locker room. I spent a little more time there than I did in the Seattle locker room. And they were down. I think they felt like this is one that they probably could have won had they had a little better execution energy early in the game. They seemed to get behind and never really quite pick it up. The big fumble on the end zone, right near the end zone was obviously a killer. But, they didn't seem so dismayed that they were like, oh, wow, this one hurts. I think they were shocked because they hadn't lost since September 17th or whatever it was. So it was a new feeling for them. But I think they all kind of realized, hey, look, this is a good reminder of what this league is like. And teams that can rush the passer, have a quarterback who can scramble around, make plays off script, just like we have with Carson Wentz, those are tough ones to beat. So the formula very much look like what the Eagles have. That should be a reminder they can win this thing if they keep, get back on track.
You wrote a piece about bad beats. I want to give you a chance to promote it because, more so than most guys I have on, you really love taking on an issue. And we met when you were taking on the 1996 Ravens as a cause and an issue. You have an interesting story up here about bad beats. And I think anybody that's gambled or anybody that's played or anybody that's ever been at the finish line thinking they've won and doesn't win has a story to tell.
Oh, sure. Oh, everyone's got a bad beat, right? Even if you only bet a nickel on a game, right? But yeah, so I went down a rabbit hole after I left Yahoo, had a little time off and was researching some stories, some stuff I wanted to do down the line. And there was a Patriots-Bills game it was 19 years ago, and there was a crazy finish, 2 controversial calls in the last minute, and then it ended on Wade Phillips telling his extra point team not to go out there. The Patriots, instead of kicking the extra point, win for 2, right? Because it's 11 on nobody, right? So there's a guy on Vegas who bet on the game, a 10-game parlay. He hit the first 9 games. That was the 10th game. He had it. He had Bills 3.5. It ended up being a 4-point game, and he lost his bet. I talked to the guy a couple times, and 3 times actually. Now that I think about it, to me, it's the game is crazy, but his story and what happened with it was also pretty darn interesting. And this is a man, it's not like he lost very much. He bet a small amount to win a big amount, right? But what could have changed his life and what he's done since then? To me, that's the interesting part of the story right there. So it's pinned to the top of my Twitter page if anyone wants to give it a look. And I had a fun time writing it.
Well, I tell you what, we are hopefully going to have a fun time here. You going to put a nickel on the Ravens playing football the first week of January at this point, Eric?
Sure, I can afford that.
Okay, well, I'm just making sure that you have the Ravens in your little bracket.
Yes.
It is interesting how this all works out because we're all just buying time waiting on the Patriots at this point, right?
I think so, man. It's crazy. And the Steelers have kind of looked up and down these last few weeks, and you don't know about the Jaguars, and we've mentioned the Ravens, and really, the team's got that sort of flaw quality to them, and you think, man, I don't know. And then New England, they looked terrible the first month of the season on defense. Now they have one of the best scoring defenses since then. I mean, they let like 14 points a game on defense. I guess so, man. I mean, could something crazy happen? Absolutely. But to me, it's not a vintage Patriots team. This is not one of their greatest teams they've ever assembled, but better than a couple of teams that have gotten to the Super Bowl, like that 2011 team. So I don't know, man. I think so, but that's just crazy even to think about how often they get there.
Yeah, I don't think the Jaguars or the Titans or the Chiefs or the Chargers or, any of these teams is going to Foxborough and winning in January. And I don't want to put the Ravens ahead of anybody in that class. I just know the Ravens have done it as an organization. Joe Flacco, Suggs, they have done that before. John Harbaugh has done that before. And clearly the Steelers are going to be in the way, and they're in the way this week as well. So, hey, dude, always great to visit with you. I hope you had a good time out there in Seattle. I hope our paths cross between now and Minneapolis. But I'll be there freezing my ass off with you and everybody else, all right?
We'll take that indoor tunnel system they got. That'll be our way of staying warm.
We're going to make the most of this thing because we're going to be broadcasting from the Mall of America. So, there'll be plenty of sushi and pizza pie around to eat as well. So I'm happy for that.
I'll be there to meet you with you, yeah.
You got it, man. We'll see you soon. He is Eric_Edholm. That's EDHOLM out at Pro Football Weekly out of the fighting city of Chicago, Illinois, and out at Eric_EDHOLM. You can find me out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from wherever you happen to be. Our morning newspaper ships digitally to your email inbox at 7 o'clock every morning. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Maybe that's a little 7 a.m. reminder to get into the gym. Never any commitment. Always $10 a month. PlanetFitness.com. Every Thursday, Dennis Colatzos hosts the SSV on WNST from 3 until 5. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard, where they also sponsor our WNST text service for breaking news. Anything happens between now and Sunday, like Jimmy Smith getting popped for PEDs after his Achilles tear on Sunday, you'll get that first on the WNST text service. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. And, of course, I'm a very available individual, much like Mr. Angelos. Nasty at WNST.net finds me 24 hours a day. I prefer the praise to the criticism at this point in my life. We are WNST.net AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.